Deafrowe with Deafrowe closed caption, and I'm back again with another review. And on this Halloween day, I am doing for you Day of the Dead 1985 by George A. Romero and makeup effects perfect by Tom Savini. As you can see, you have the great Laurie Cardile playing Dr. Sarah Bowman. You got Terry Alexander playing John. Joseph Pilato playing Captain Henry Rhodes. Jarlath Conroe playing Bill McDermott. Anthony DeLeo Jr. playing Private Miguel Salazar. Richard Liberty playing Dr. Matthew Logan, even though they call him a lot Dr. Frankenstein in this movie. Sherman Howard as Bub. And I'll fill you in on the rest as we go. We start off right here. Well, before I get started, hit that like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you see the stuff that's come out with later. This might be my last video for a little while. I'm going to take a little break after this. But for this Halloween day, I had to do Day of the Dead 1985. Let's get going. And of course, it starts off the movie with the Laurie Cardile having this dream where she's walking up to the, October calendar, puts her hand on it, and of course all these little hands come out from the wall. It's one of those iconic shots from this movie that you see just about anywhere, really. I mean, I don't think I've seen anybody that's never saw that kind of shot. And it cuts to her waking up in the helicopter with Bill and Terry. Well, not Terry. John and Bill. John being the helicopter pilot, played by Terry Alexander. The guy you see right here is Jarlath Conroy, which is playing Bill McDermott. And of course, they also have Miguel. Private Miguel is in the back with him. He's just kind of going crazy, really. So and these shots are actually shot in Florida. So that's what's so cool about some of these shots. And there's three areas that I know of that they shot in Florida, and these are all the outside scenes that you see at the very beginning. And it's you got one location is Bowman's Beach Helistop, Fort Myers, and Sanibel Island. Where exactly this is could be. I want to say this is mostly on Sanibel Island, where they're landing the helicopter and they're in this little town trying to find somebody. And of course they do that infamous "Hello, is anybody there?" whole ordeal. And of course it starts bringing out the zombies and everything else. I love this shot right here. It's down this town that's just been desolate for, it looks like, years. Because this, like I said, this takes place after Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead. And out of the three original of the Dead movies, this is my favorite one. Because you just feel so claustrophobic anywhere you go in the world now, because you don't know where these things are going to start creeping up out of. And of course, you got Bill on the radio. He's trying to call out a little bit further than what they can with the microphone. So yeah, I mean, it was so fun. John and Bill are like, we're staying in the helicopter, and anything goes down, we're ready to go. So we ain't playing around like that. Y'all want to get out there and start making noise, you go right ahead. And so, yeah, they don't really find anybody, and they have to end up just leaving. And of course, they're all worn out because they went like 100 miles, two different directions or whatever, trying to pick up anybody on a radio or on any type of frequency whatsoever, and couldn't find anybody. So they land back at the military station that they want to land at, and of course, he wants to fuel up. Terry Alexander's character, John, wants to fill it back up. He's like, hey, we don't know when stuff's going to go down. We need to have this sucker full at all times. And she's like, well, wait till the night to do it. Wait till night to do it. And like, whatever, okay. And so, because she thinks they're too riled up, and then to do anything right now, and she's worried the fence will break if they try to fuel it up right now. And as they come back, they realize there's a new grave, and it is the original captain or whatever. I can't remember the name exactly. He has passed on, and the new captain is Captain Rhodes, Henry Rhodes, which is played by Joseph Pilato. And so they get back down, and of course the first thing they see is Steele and Rickles. I'm just going to call by the last name. It's easier for me to do that way. Steele and Rickles come up, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to help us wrangle up some zombies specimens, you know." And so they want Miguel to come and help them wrangle up. And she's like, "Hey, he's too tired. You can't be doing all that." Just after we got back from this, huge excursion trying to find these people, we can't find anybody. So she volunteers along with Miguel to go help. They get some zombies down, and of course Miguel is losing his grip on everything. And so she has to step in and grab it. And they finally get the zombies back to the specimens back to the lab where Dr. Logan or Dr. Frankenstein can take a look at them. And they leave him, and then that's when she sneaks up on Miguel and gives him a sedative to make him go to sleep and knock him out, because he's having hallucinations and losing his grip, can't think straight, the whole 9 yards. And then he's like, they're having like a meeting before the meeting, I guess you could say. The military likes to do that for some reason. And we are introduced to Captain Henry Rhodes in this, and a lot of FUs and a lot of F that's and F what. This guy's just mean and despicable, but you love to hate him. And they're having arguments about everything. He gets pissed off that she sedated one of his men. He's like, "I can't have you sedate my men. I don't have that many men left," or whatever. So she finally goes and visits Dr. Logan, and she sees Bub. He's chained up in Dr. Logan's main experiment area, I guess you could call, where he's been working on. He's not really been working on curing the problem. He's just working on trying to manipulate the zombies in a way, almost like treat them like dogs, in a way. And maybe get him to remember certain motor functions so that he can sway him one way or the other to not eat him, basically. And so, yeah, that doesn't go over well with her, because she's like, "We've already been down this route, that didn't work," and all this other stuff, and then blah, blah, blah. So now we're back, and it's the main meeting of the day, I guess you could say, because they got the 2 helicopter guys in there with them. And they're all bickering over, like, when the doctor's going to show up and, do his reporting and everything. She tries to leave, and of course, they get in a scuffle about that. He's like, "You shoot her or I will shoot you," because they still thought he was just joking around, saying, "Shoot her if she leaves." And if he gets up and points the gun at her and says, "If you don't shoot her, I'll shoot you." And then finally he has to get up and point his gun. So finally she sits back down, and that's where Dr. Frankenstein comes back in, and that's just what Rhodes keeps calling him the whole time. It's Dr. Frankenstein. "What are you doing with my time?" And of course he's just like trying to explain the whole ordeal. It's like, what are you going to do? You don't have enough bullets. You don't have enough this or that. You gotta wait for me to figure something out. I said, we are civilians. You gotta help us, or whatever. So yeah, that whole meeting goes to shit. Nothing gets said. Nothing gets done. Obvious. And these 2 guys right here, Bill and John, they kind of sense that shit's not going to go right. Shit's not going to go good if they stick around for too much longer. And so you can tell at the very kind of towards the beginning of the movie that they're thinking of ways to get the hell out of there. And So yeah, this whole ordeal with the military guys screwing around. She goes to visit. This is when she goes and visit Bill and John, and basically they have like this little hideout in the middle of the caves, which all the cave scenes that I know of were filmed in Pennsylvania. So you had all the above scenes, which were filmed in close to where Fort Myers is, because that's, I think, at the time, Fort Myers is where George A. Romero lived. So all the above ground scenes that you saw were filmed in and around Fort Myers and Sanibel Island, that kind of stuff. And then when you see the mines, it's something called Gateway Commerce Center, Wampum Mine, and then in Pittsburgh, Monroeville, um, in and around those areas, Nike or Nike missile site, which I think the missile site is when they make the escape towards the end. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Not to mention that Romero originally had a budget of $7 million for this movie, and it was cut in half before he got started. And so he had to work with half the budget that he was originally given in order to make this movie what it is. And in my honest opinion, he did a damn good job. So we get to this section of the movie, and she's talking with John and Bill. And basically, she's just giving John a lashing about all you do here is want to sit back and just fly your helicopter. You don't want to do much of anything else or help the cause and all this other stuff. I said, I am helping the cause. I'm the only one that can fly the helicopter. So who else is going to fly it? And so but then he goes on to get real philosophical with her. He's like all this documentation down here that we're sitting with, all this government documentation that was left behind by this military base or whatever. We're basically in a tomb of our own making, and we're going to die down here if we don't do something soon. And that's what he's trying to kind of allude to. And they're living out of like this little RV in the caves, which is a little bit more dangerous than staying inside the actual base area where you saw the brick walls and stuff, because in those caves there are certain areas you don't know if there are certain areas that are blocked off as much as others. If it could be one zombie gets in and mess up the whole ordeal. And we cut to her, basically what we don't know if this is a day later or if this is right after she has the meeting with John and Bill, because you don't see any daylight or nighttime. So the only time you saw daylight is when they first arrived in the helicopter. You don't see it ever again for most of the movie till towards the end. So that's where that claustrophobic feeling comes in. It's like this whole time they're down there, you don't know whether it's night or day or how much time has passed or whatever. You don't know. And so, yeah, he's back in there trying to explain this whole ordeal. We're trying to get him to learn not to want to eat us and all this other stuff. And then, like, he's basically trying to train this one unruly zombie to not bite, not be aggressive. And what Dr. Frankenstein has figured out is basically this: there are some zombies that are more aggressive than others, and he thinks that he can get the ones that are not so aggressive to lead the ones that are very aggressive in certain instances. So this one was being like very aggressive. He just like shuts the door. Well, turns the light off and shuts the door. And tells the zombie, "Think about what you did. Think." Like he was gonna do anything. Then he leads him around to another room where Bub is, and gives Bub a couple utensils or shaving and cleaning materials. And Bub picks up the razor immediately and just starts to try to like shave his face. Yeah, there you go. So he's mimicking stuff that he used to do when he was still alive. Then he goes on to pick up a book, which, by the way, is Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I thought that was pretty funny that they put that book in there for Bub to read. And another side note, while watching this movie again, I was watching it with subtitles. And something I caught that I didn't catch before, the whole reason that Dr. Frankenstein, or Dr. Logan, whatever we want to call him, calls Bub Bub is because that's what they used to call Dr. Frankenstein's dad at the country club, was Bub. That was kind of funny. And of course he gives him a phone. He figures out how to use the phone. And that's when Captain Rhodes comes in. He's like, what the hell are you doing? We ain't supposed to be teaching these things how to do anything. I just want to kill them. And then Bub salutes him, and Rhodes ain't too happy about that either. And then Dr. Logan gets Dr. Bowman's Laurie Cardell's character's gun, gives it to Bub. Bub figures out how to use the gun, basically. Let's see if I can get to that. Yeah. Anyway, Bub basically points the gun at Captain Rhodes, and Rhodes don't like that too much either, and it just ends up being a shitstorm. Anyway, we get to this part, and of course they're trying to use Miguel again to round up a couple more specimens. And Miguel is he's losing his shit basically, and can't keep nothing together. Ends up getting one guy killed by a bite to the throat, and I have to go through that quickly because I don't want the YouTube censors to get me on that crap. And so Miguel gets mad and goes after the other zombie or whatever. And the other zombie falls on him and bites his arm. Well, then she decides to cut his arm off and burn the stub. And that's what she does. She tries to save him, Miguel, that is, by cutting his arm off and burning the stub. And she thinks it might work, but the rest of the guys, they don't think so. They're like, no, we gotta shoot him. Yeah, we're pretty sure he's gonna die pretty soon. And so Bill and John get behind her with guns and tell those three, the military guys, to back off. He's like, we're not gonna let them shoot him. Basically standing their ground, as you can see. Still ain't liking it. She's freaking out because she can't believe just what happened. So she's got him all bandaged up and everything. She's got to go. Her and Bill decide to go back to the inside there to get some medicine for Miguel. And so that's what they're trying to do. They go in there and they figure out that Dr. Frankenstein. This is the part where everything starts to go to crap. Hold on just a second. They figure out Dr. Frankenstein has been taking the soldiers' bodies and hacking them up and using them for treats, but also using them for experiments, which is something that Captain Henry Rhodes ain't going to be happy about. And Bill figures it out when they're looking through his stuff trying to find some medicine for Miguel. He's like, we probably need to get out of here. So yeah, they find there's one of the dudes that just died, one of the army dudes that just died right there sitting on the table head. And of course Dr. Frankenstein's in there with Bub, still experiment with him. He puts headphones on Bub and shows him how to use a tape recorder or whatever. Has him play him in the Walkman. And then he gives Bub a treat, which ends up being the army dude that just died. It's like he immediately cut up the army dude for experimentation and treats for the zombies, the other specimen. And that's when, yeah, Captain Rhodes comes in and is like, "What have you done?" And they can't really take it anymore. It pretty much makes Rhodes snap when he finds out what Dr. Logan, Dr. Frankenstein's been doing this whole time. Is anytime one of the army guys dies, he basically just hacks them up for treats and experiments. And so they come back. They end up killing Dr. Frankenstein. Why? Because they open up the food freezer basically, and they find the body of one of their soldiers in there. They take the scientist's gun, and they got the other scientist right there. And basically, Rhodes is they tell them to drop their guns, or we're going. There's only so many people that can escape on that helicopter, and you're coming with us, Flyboy. So they start calling John Flyboy for some reason, because basically he's the only one that can. They shoot the other doctor in the head as kind of like a warning. We're not playing around. Or he does. Rhodes shoots the other doctor in the head right in front of him, right here in the cavern. And Rhodes takes Bill and Dr. Sarah and put them in on the other side of that little barricade where they were capturing the zombies as specimens. They put them on the other side and said just let them loose, basically. And yeah, they kind of had to fend for themselves a little bit. And they beat the shit out of John for a minute because they're like, "Hey, you're coming with us regardless of what you think." This part's kind of funny. We finally get back to Bub, and he's been chained up to the wall this whole time. We don't really know what's going on. He accidentally gets his chain unhooked from the mount right there, and is able to get away. And we're back over at Dr. Sarah and Bill, and they're still in the caverns, and they're kind of like fighting them off with like shovels and stuff that they found. And then that's when Steele and Rickles realizes that somebody's messing with the launch pad, or the elevator pad, and Miguel has basically cut out the guts of the elevator thing and taking himself up there. And this is when John, he basically, so Rhodes sends Rickles and Steele to check that out while they holding a gun to John. At this time, this is when John gets the upper hand and knocks the shit out of Rhodes and takes both his guns. And they can't figure out how they're going to get this elevator to come back down. They know Miguel's up there, and John goes after Sarah and Bill in the caverns, helping them with the two guns he got from Rhodes. And they're basically trying to find their way, and the caverns lead to another, like a missile silo. So they're trying to find their way through this cave to that other side, to where there's a missile silo, and they can go up and out instead of having to go back through where everybody else is. So it's just the three of them now. And of course, they're trying to figure out this elevator thing, and while they're figuring out the elevator thing, Miguel has opened the gate up top and let the zombies in, and basically set himself as a sacrificial lamb on the elevator lift. Yep, right here. And has let them down into the base. And of course, Rhodes takes off in the only cart there is and leaves the army buddies behind. And at this point, you see Bub. He finds what he thought to be his friend, I guess you could say, Dr. Logan, in the freezer, all shot up after Rhodes found out he was doing with the bodies, and he's got this frustrated look on his face, like something's not right. He shouldn't be, and he's pissed, and he shouldn't be pissed. And then of course, each one of the army dudes gets taken out one by one. If you've ever seen this scene right here, this is one of those scenes that would have been taken off of network television right here. I'm not going to show it on here because YouTube probably take it off on me too. But basically, this one instance here where this SAVINI's artwork here just shines through like crazy. So this guy is being pulled apart in multiple directions by different zombies. As you can see, that one zombie's got his fingers in his eye sockets, and as he pulls on that dude's head, it pulls it from the throat, and the throat and the vocal cords get higher and higher pitched as he pulls. It is one of the most craziest scenes in any zombie movie I've ever seen, and it is all done with practical effects. There's no CGI. There's no, he doesn't have a green sleeve over his head or some shit like that. I mean, it's just all practical effects that you're seeing right here. It's crazy. And of course, they catch another one, and then you got Rickles. He gets caught, and they rip like the eye up over his head. It's nuts. And of course, old Steele, he decides to, I think he ended up just taking himself out, committing suicide before they can really get into him. And Bub, he's trying to find Rhodes. Now finally, Bill, John, and Sarah, they find their way to the missile silo. They find the stairs, and they're going straight up and out. Because they know they can't go the other way now. And this was where Rhodes finally gets it. He finally gets it. Bub actually shoots him one time, I think, maybe twice. And he's crawling along the floor. He's trying to get to this door. And then he finally gets to the door. Yeah, he's kind of crawling along, everything like that. He finally gets to the door, and there's nothing but zombies behind it, and of course they all grab onto him. You done for. And that's that infamous scene right here. You choke on it, choke on him. And that's basically, and like this is the one scene in the Canadian version VHS release, for example, that was completely removed because of the censors. Because at this moment, and the way they did this, I know how they did this because I've seen the what do you call it, the behind the scenes stuff with SAVINI explaining how they did this with Rhodes, but still the practical effects is phenomenal in this one scene. If you've never seen this part of Day of the Dead, then you've not seen Day of the Dead. Go back and watch it. Right now, you can watch it streaming on Hulu and watch the entire thing with no edits that I know of. I watched it myself on Hulu, so I know it's pretty good. And you see this scene with Rhodes and tell me that ain't, and how they can do this without CGI. I mean, they can't do this without CGI today. Most of them can't figure it out. SAVINI was doing it in 1985. So yeah, go to that scene. Of course, now they just see different shots of the entire base pretty much overrun with zombies at this point, but those three did get away. They end up on this little island off to the, because like I said, all the outside shots are Florida, so they just probably hit an island. I mean, because Sanibel Island itself is an island, but I mean, there's smaller ones off to the left a little bit from it, and a little north of it too. So they could pick any island nearby and just dropped off. So, and I don't think they could make it far because I don't think they ever filled up the tanks on the helicopter, because she was saying, "Hey, you don't want to get them riled up and just fill it up tonight." Well, you think they remember to fill it up that night? Everybody was going insane in that place. Everybody was losing their mind. All the army folks were losing their mind. Why do you think there was so much cussing and so much intensity in this movie and so much claustrophobic feelings going on in this movie? Is because they were all going insane from being in there too long, including Dr. Logan trying to train them like dogs. He was at a loss of trying everything else, and it was just going to, hey, let's just train them to be our friends, which obviously wasn't going to work. And of course, that's the end of the movie right there, where they pretty much on the island, they escaped. You know that. Now, from what I understand, they were supposed to be doing another one called Night of the Living Dead 2, which picks up where Day of the Dead left off, with these three characters on an island. Whether they do that movie or not, I'm not sure. There is a website out there. I'll leave a link in the description that you can look at it for yourself, make your own assumptions. I would love to see it personally, because I like to see where these three characters went and what happens to them. That's just me though. Plus, Bub is still alive. That'd be good. They could always bring Bub back, which is played by Sherman Howard. But yeah, this movie gets 100% from me. You can go look at my rating on criticlist.com. And yeah, love this movie. 100% love this movie. My number one movie of all time. The music in this movie is spot on. Perfect for this movie. And I'll be honest with you, this is why this is my favorite Romero movie. It had all the makeup effects and creature effects and all the gore effects. All that came into alignment perfectly. The script wasn't all that. He had to tone it down from what he originally wanted to do, but he did a great job doing that. You had Romero at his peak of doing movies. You had SAVINI above and beyond his peak at doing makeup effects. And then on top of that, you had a perfect musical score going the entire time, and it is kind of setting the pace along the way and what you could expect or what's going to happen from scene to scene. So it was perfect. And the reason Dawn of the Dead didn't even have that, to be honest with you. Dawn of the Dead, SAVINI was still playing around with what he wanted zombies to look like. In Dawn of the Dead, they couldn't get the musical score right. You had three different musical scores depending on which version of the movie that you watched, so it was all over the place. So, and plus that was a collaboration with another director as well, so it wasn't fully on Romero's movie. This is all Romero, all SAVINI, and the music is specifically for this movie, which I have the soundtrack to. I like it that much. And not to mention, I have this movie on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, the whole 9 yards. And I still watch it on streaming just for the heck of it sometimes. Without further ado, that's my review of Day of the Dead, 1985, the most perfect zombie movie I've ever seen and still have seen. I still have not seen anything that is as good as this, in my opinion. And that is my take on Dawn of the Day of the Dead, 1985. Now, without further ado, I will not be uploading too many videos from here on out. I want to have kind of tone it down a little bit, waiting for some shows to start up for me. So this Halloween Day of the Dead 1985 review is going to be the last review I do for a little while. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and see if I can't get some things together. In the meantime, like, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification bell so you know when I'm coming back. And that is going to do it for me. That's, I'll catch you out on the edge of another review. Deafrowe out.